A madman was walking a tightrope atop the Twin Towers, 2,000 meters above the ground. The wind whipped around him, making his pants flutter. His body wobbled slightly, and even the balancing pole in his hands shook, but he didn't look scared at all. In fact, he forced a casual smile. What made it even more terrifying was that he wasn't tied to a single rope. One misstep, and he would plummet to the ground below, turning into a human pancake. The crowd gathering beneath grew larger and larger, all eyes fixed on him. Soon, he reached the midpoint, about to step over a clip on the cable, only to realize that the clip, which should have been secured above, had been installed below, like a ticking time bomb. Step wrong, and he could fall to his death. He hesitated for a few seconds, then gritted his teeth and stepped forward. After firmly planting his right foot, he bent down carefully to place his left. Against all odds, he cleared the obstacle safely, and the tension in his face finally gave way to a grin. He seemed to have regained his confidence, striding more boldly with each step. Fortune favored him, and nothing else went wrong. He finally reached the platform. As his feet touched solid ground, the crowd erupted in applause, utterly mesmerized by the performance. But he wasn't satisfied. His eyes were sharp. His mind made a daring decision. He stepped back onto the cable. This time, it was completely different from before. Each step felt like walking on solid ground. He moved faster, and his movements were bigger, but even that wasn't enough. Halfway across, he suddenly stopped. Using his right foot, which had been scraped by the clip, he slowly slid backward along the cable. The soles of his shoes were stained red with blood. Ignoring the pain, he pressed his knees to the wire, even dropping to one knee in midair. Then he raised his right hand, as if paying tribute to the cable itself, to New York itself. The crowd cheered, applauding his audacity. He stood up with a smile, ready to finish, but just then, two police officers rushed toward him, dragging away his companion and telling him to come down. The man walked toward them cautiously, but one step from the platform, he froze. He lifted his balancing pole overhead and spun around violently. The officers were dumbfounded, but he didn't care. He returned to the middle of the tightrope. At this height, looking down is the last thing anyone should do, but he deliberately did. He even knelt again, then performed a move he had never tried before. He lowered his balancing pole, knelt on both knees, stretched out his arms, and leaned backward, as if savoring the dangerous, exhilarating height. Before long, several officers had made it to the opposite side. The man's antics escalated. He took up his balancing pole and, right in front of them, performed a ballet leap. He barely acknowledged their warnings with a nod, then turned and walked back. Seeing the officers staring him down, he suddenly lost his temper. He laid the pole across the cable, struck a new pose, then crossed his arms over his chest, standing his ground against them. Even as the wind buffeted his right foot violently, he stayed firm, his posture rigid and commanding, as if to declare, "I am the master of this sky." Meanwhile, 500 meters below, the crowd had gone wild. People had even stopped working, captivated, unable to tear their eyes away from his performance.